All right, let's jump right into this. Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're unpacking a massive economic reality check that is, honestly, incredibly frustrating for so many people right now. I'm talking directly to you, the young UK professionals out there. You know the drill. You skipped the avocado toast, you put in the hours studying, you climbed the corporate ladder, and you finally landed what your parents always called a good salary. But here's the kicker. Despite playing entirely by the book, you still feel like you're absolutely failing to get ahead. Am I right? Today, we're diving into the hard math behind why the old British blueprint of just work hard and get a good salary has officially become a structural trap. We're going to look at the exact numbers and the overarching economic systems that are literally keeping you stuck. £50,000. Man, for a long time here in the UK, this was the ultimate milestone of financial security, wasn't it? If you hit that 50k mark, the general assumption was simply that you'd made it. You could afford a nice house, maybe raise a family comfortably, take a few holidays, and actually build some wealth. It was basically the golden ticket that generations before us relied on. But today, for young professionals dealing with these completely skyrocketing UK living costs, this former benchmark of success has morphed into something entirely different. It's really become a ceiling, and it is incredibly difficult to break through.
And it leads to this really harsh reality for so many of you. Rich on paper, financially drowning in reality. Think about it. If you're earning £50,000 a year in the UK right now, the system essentially categorizes you as a high earner. Technically, on paper, you're rich. But your lived reality, your day-to-day experience of trying to pay rent, buy groceries, and somehow save for a future, it feels like you're financially drowning. There is just this massive, massive dissonance between the salary you're earning and the life that salary is actually supposed to buy you. So let's break down the dark math they really don't want you to see to explain exactly why this is happening.
Part 1, the tax trap. Let's deconstruct the math. The very first systemic hurdle that's actively destroying the value of your hard work is a sneaky little mechanism called fiscal drag. Let's look at how this actually plays out. Fiscal drag happens when the cost of living goes up, inflation, so your company gives you a standard pay rise just to help you cope. Now, you haven't actually been promoted, right? Your purchasing power hasn't genuinely increased. You're basically just being handed a few extra pounds to cover the ridiculously rising cost of bread, electricity, and rent. But because the government has frozen the tax thresholds, that helpful little pay rise actually drags you into a higher tax bracket. So you're earning more numerically, sure, but you're not getting any richer. Just look at the mismatch here. Inflation pushes the cost of living up and up, but the government has frozen the 40% higher rate tax threshold at exactly £50,270. And get this, it's going to stay frozen until 2031. That is literally years of stagnation. So picture this. You're a young professional sitting at £48,000 and you get a pay bump to £52,000 just to survive inflation. Boom, you cross that 50,270 line. Suddenly you're in the higher bracket. HMRC steps in and takes nearly half of every single extra pound you make above that threshold. The raise that was supposed to save you from inflation gets completely swallowed by the tax man. It's basically a mathematical trap designed to capture your income. Moving on to part 2, the 200K housing gap. And hey, if the tax system wasn't enough of a hurdle for you, let's look at the impossible math of the housing market you're trying to buy into. Let's walk step by step through the brutal calculation required just to buy a totally ordinary flat right now. Step 1, the average home in the UK now costs over 8 times the average earnings, sometimes even more. Step 2, when you go to a bank for a mortgage, strict lending rules mean they will typically only lend you 4.5 times your income. So let's get this straight. You want an asset that costs 8 times what you earn, but you can only borrow 4.5 times what you earn. Step 3, the result is a massive cash gap. For a standard property on a £50,000 salary, that leaves you with a staggering $200,000 cash shortfall that you somehow have to come up with completely on your own. And we really have to emphasize just how severe this is depending on where you happen to work. For young professionals trying to build a career in the capital, this multiplier isn't just 8, no way. In London, house prices have pushed past 10 times average earnings. 10 times! The gap between what a salary can actually provide and what a basic roof over your head actually costs has completely decoupled. The math simply does not work for the salaried worker anymore. Which brings us to a really, really difficult realization. You cannot save your way out. I really want to validate the frustration so many of you are feeling right now. You might be making 50K, living frugally, skipping holidays, and aggressively saving every single spare penny you have after HMRC takes its near 50% cut of your wages. But unless you're planning to survive purely on tap water and good vibes, it's pretty much futile. You were trying to save $200,000 in cash in an economy with high inflation, frozen tax thresholds, and skyrocketing asset prices. You're basically existing in a system that is actively designed to melt your cash. This leads us perfectly into part 3, Capital Distortion, labor versus legacy assets. To truly grasp why all of this is happening, we need to zoom out a bit. This isn't just bad luck, guys. It's a massive structural divide right at the heart of the UK economy today. On one side, you have traditional labor. That's you, the young professional. You are working hard, earning a salary, and as we've seen with Fiscal Drag, you are quite literally being taxed to death. On the flip side, you have legacy asset owners. These are the individuals and institutions that hold property, equities, and other hard assets. While your labor is heavily taxed and your cash is melted by inflation, their existing wealth is just passively growing. They're getting richer. The economy is currently designed to aggressively punish salaried work while handsomely rewarding existing wealth. And this brings us to the blueprint of how this whole system really operates. Global capital is fundamentally distorting the UK economy. It shifts the goalposts so much that purely relying on a salary is honestly a losing strategy. But here is the absolutely crucial takeaway. Smart money adapts. Those who truly understand the game aren't just trying to save their heavily taxed cash in a standard everyday bank account. Instead, their focus shifts. Right now, smart money is actively moving into 3 tax-efficient asset classes to protect their wealth from that fiscal drag and inflation we talked about. They're moving away from the trap of pure labor income and straight into the safety of shielded assets. Which leaves us with this final, vital question. Do you understand the game being played with your money? Because if you're earning £50,000 a year, thinking you are doing everything right while constantly wondering why you're falling behind, well, you're caught in the trap. The old blueprint is simply gone. To survive and thrive as a professional today, you have to look past the salary and understand the mechanisms of capital distortion that are dictating your financial reality. Think about the math we've covered today and ask yourself how you need to adapt your strategy going forward. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, and I will catch you next time.